Thank you very much, Chairman of the proceedings, Mr. Daniel Duque. Chairman of the People's National Movement, Mr. Franklin Kahn. Political leader and the next Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley. Deputy political leaders, Mrs. Marlene MacDonald, Mrs. Joe Newell Williams, Mr. Rowan Sinanan, Mr. Orville London, who I'm sure is listening in Tobago. My fellow candidate for Labrie, Ms. Nicole Oliver. The former MP for Labrie, Mr. Fitzgerald Jeffrey. The former MP for Point Fortin, Mrs. Paula Gopi-Skoon. My fellow candidates who I see in the audience. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the media and the listening public in Trinidad and Tobago, a pleasant good evening to you all. And I want to start off by saying, the chairman just read out a number of qualifications there. But I want to put on the record that those qualifications that I've attained at Vancouver RFC School and West Indies Secondary School and at the University of the West Indies could not have been possible without the foundation, the education policy of Dr. Eric Williams and successive PNM government in Trinidad and Tobago. Let us not forget that, ladies and gentlemen, that where we are in our education right now, it is based on PNM's policy. So I want to give thanks and appreciation to that. Allow me, first of all, to give thanks to Almighty God for bringing us safely to Majuba Junction here this evening. And then secondly, I want to give him thanks for all that he has done in my life. I want to thank also the hard-working executive of the Point Fortin constituency. Point Fortin, where are you? And so I also want to thank Mrs. Paula Gopi-Skoon as the outgoing MP for all the hard work and dedication that she has done, and to assure her publicly that I will continue in all that she has done and build on the foundation that she has left. I want to assure each and every one of you that I will do my best and let God do the rest. The demonstrating trust and confidence that you have placed in me, I wish to inform you that I will endeavor to do my best. I will humanly live up to your expectations. This evening, I am indeed pleased to share the podium with my neighbor, my PNM sister, Nicole Oliver. Because you must know that we are twins. In fact, I say we are triplets because we have to include Faizabad in that. Faizabad, Point Fortin, and Labrie. We're going to make sure that this southwestern area gets what it deserves. Today is a signal honor for me. And in fact, I consider it a privilege to address you. I am very elated. I am very excited and very optimistic that we proceed to shape a new future for Labrie, Point Fortin, and Faizabad in particular, but Trinidad and Tobago in general. At the outset, let me extend my sincerest thanks and appreciation to Dr. Rowley and the screening committee for selecting me as a candidate for Point Fortin. You were informed a while ago, or you may not have been informed, but you should be aware that I grew up at Cochrane Village, Guapo. My father, Edmund Dillon, who is somewhere in the audience, better known as Dutchie, was a taxi driver, most people know. My mother, Ivadne Dillon, who is here, she's somewhere in the audience. Both live here at Labrie. My grandfather and grandmother, in fact, my grandfather and grandmother on my father's side came from Tobago. All the Tobagonians in the house. And on my mother's side from Grenada, so I'm a combination of both. But I also want to let you know that my grandfather lived 106 years in Cochrane. And my grandmother lived to 97 years. I'm saying that to let you know that I'm a long liver, so PNM, you have me for a long time. My wife grew up with me in Cochrane Village also, and my 3 children, Cleavon, Adisha, and Tony. That's my family. But as I stand here this evening, I remember my days here in Labrie coming to spend vacation by my grandmother, playing in what was the best sports field in the West, that Brighton sports field outside there. Those in Labrie could say yes. And I remember looking at golf on the golf course. That's no longer there. Those were the days when Labrie was Labrie. And this is the days that we have to bring back what was meant to Labrie in the days gone by. As a child growing up in Cochrane Village, I distinctly remember that in most of the houses, there were 3 items on the wall, ladies and gentlemen. One was the picture of Jesus Christ. Remember the one with the hat? The other, not a picture, but a clipping, because there was newspaper clipping in those days, of Dr. the Right Honorable Williams. The third one was a baliser. I wonder if we still have a baliser in our houses. We have to. We have to bring back those things, ladies and gentlemen, because subliminally, as children, we grew up seeing the baliser. It meant something to us. So maybe there are some lessons there. Let us bring the baliser back in our house as a symbol that shows strength for the people's national movement. And so it's based on my background growing up in Cochrane Village that has shaped my humility, has shaped my character, that saw me moving from a normal enlisted person in the defense force to the highest rank, retiring as the Chief of Defense Staff of the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force. You know, the Bible tells us in Proverbs 15:33, before honor is humility. And in fact, in 1 Peter 5:5, that God resisted the proud and giveth grace to the humble. So it is therefore with the greatest amount of humility, mutual respect, and dedication that I present myself to you this evening, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, I have been a selfless servant of this country for more than 36 years, having enlisted in the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force in 1974. And I did that while most of my peers went out to university or went and got jobs in the oil industry. I did it because of a commitment to serve. I did it because I wanted to serve in a different capacity. And so this candidacy is another opportunity for me to serve the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Coming from the military, in which I have spent more than half of my life, my experience has been filled with service to others, the soldiers, the airmen, the Coast Guardsmen, and in fact, the people of Trinidad and Tobago. It is this principle of service which was molded in me when I attended the Royal Military Academy, Sandhurst. Because at Sandhurst, the motto was serve to lead. And as young officers, it was inculcated in us that if you are a leader, you must understand that you can only lead because the followers will give you permission to lead. You can't lead if you don't have their permission. And so you must serve to lead. And so it is that motto. It is that motto that enshrined in me in terms of what you call servant leadership. A philosophy that has been practiced at people like Martin Luther King, Mother Teresa, and Gandhi, and so on. And it is the same principle that I am going to use, which I have used in the Defense Force, to ensure that the People's National Movement moves to greater heights and the Point 14 constituency get what it deserves, ladies and gentlemen. You know, some people ask me, why did you enter into politics? I've retired from the military. They say you could go and play golf or something like that. Some even say, but you're crazy. Why do you want to get into politics at this point in time? For me, I think it's a very simple answer. You see, again, while I was at Sandhurst, there was a course called Democracy in the Army, Democracy in the Military, in which they said to us as officers, you must be politically aware. You cannot be politically involved. Because you are there to serve any government that's in power, and therefore you must not be politically involved. So for 36 years, I joined no political party. None. But I voted in every election. I exercised my franchise. But having left the military, I asked myself, which party? And I tell you something, I didn't have to take long in wondering which party to join. The answer was, in fact, right at my fingertips, ladies and gentlemen. Very much at my fingertips. Because for me, the only party is the People's National Movement. And then when I look at the state of affairs in my country, that I gave 36 years to, ladies and gentlemen, I cannot retire. When I consider the crime situation, I cannot retire. When I consider the breakdown of institutions, I cannot retire. When I consider the cancellation of the offshore patrol vessels, I cannot retire. And I want to digress a bit on the offshore patrol vessels, because under my watch, we made a strategic plan that put forward the offshore patrol vessels. It was not a political decision. It was based on a strategic plan from the Defense Force. When we looked at the environment, it was determined that we need offshore patrol vessels to patrol our waters. I'll tell you why. Because you see, what we don't realize is at the time that we asked for the offshore patrol vessels, the U.S. Gentian, which was the shipwrighters vessel, was pulled out for services in Far East. The UK guard ship that operated in the West Indies was pulled out of the Caribbean. Even the military attaché from Barbados was pulled out. So there was an absence of assistance from our international partners to deal with our territorial waters. When we look at our maritime security environment, there are three elements, there are three tiers. Tier 1, which is from your shoreline to 3 miles. Tier 2, from 3 miles to 12 miles. And Tier 3, from 12 miles to your territorial waters, the exclusive economic zone. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give you an analogy. If you have a house on an acre of land, and the house is in the middle of the land, and you want to secure that acre, where are you going to put the fence? Near to the house or on the acre on your perimeter land? I can answer it for you also. You will put it on your perimeter on the acre of land, because if you put it next to your house, by the time you look, they banded up your steps or through your windows. Put that into perspective, ladies and gentlemen. Our territorial waters is at the 200-mile limit, our exclusive economic zone. If we have to protect our shores, if we have to protect Trinidad and Tobago, then we must have something outside our 200-mile limit. And the only vessel capable of dealing in the waters outside our 200-mile limit is the offshore patrol vessel, ladies and gentlemen. The offshore patrol vessel. You cannot replace an offshore patrol vessel with any other vessel. Don't be fooled. Anything to replace an offshore patrol vessel must be an offshore patrol vessel, ladies and gentlemen. And the ones that we had was in fact a platform, an all-inclusive platform. Now we are seeing you buying a logistic vessel to support a vessel. The offshore patrol vessel had everything inclusive, a helicopter plan, offshore interceptors, and it was self-contained. It guaranteed 28 days in any 1 month in our coastline, ladies and gentlemen. And let me let you know, the same vessel that was built for us was set Brazil, which is one of the largest countries in South America, bought 3, and in fact, are building 2 more. The Royal Navy, as we speak, and you can check it online, are building based on that same pattern, 2 vessels, 2 offshore patrol vessels for the Royal Navy. So tell me, ladies and gentlemen, what was the problem with the offshore patrol vessels? Over the last 4 years, we were denied the presence out in our territorial waters. What is the response? What is the effect? More guns, more drugs. We are at a crime situation now that we cannot even deal with it, ladies and gentlemen. So I want to share that with you. The next area is, in fact, the National Operations Center. I see now we have a new manager, and let me know. He used to work in SORT, ladies and gentlemen. So here we have SORT. You see what I'm talking about. And the National Operations Center, some people assume that it was a new concept. It wasn't. Let me tell you that during 2009, Cricket World Cup, Summit of the Americas, the National Operations Center was in fact designed at Defense Force Headquarters, where we ran the entire show. Cameron Ross, in his report, said that that should be done at a national level, and it's instituted, started under the PNM government, ladies and gentlemen. Not National Operations Center. You can check the records. So let's put it right. It's not a new concept. It isn't something that was new, designed over the last 4 years. It was there since 2009 under the PNM government. So ladies and gentlemen, I can't retire when all these things are going on. I cannot retire when Point 14 is still under a state of underdevelopment. And if I take a page from Black Stalin's book, when he said, wait, Dorothy, wait, let me tell you, I'm going to say, wait, retirement, wait. I'm not going to retire. I'm going to here to serve the people and the country of Trinidad and Tobago. English philosopher Edmund once said, evil flourish when good men fail to act. And US President Obama said, it is not good enough to only have hope and aspirations for oneself, but to provide the same for others. Our esteemed leader, Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley, has repeatedly called on all right-thinking people to stand up and be counted. Now, do not get me wrong, I'm not perfect. In fact, none of us can make that claim. But I do sincerely believe that I have a contribution to make. It is therefore against this background of humble beginnings, a willingness to serve, a record of achievements, and of course, most importantly, my wife's approval and my children's blessings, that I decided to get into politics. I strongly believe that I can make a difference, utilizing the tools and the gift that the Lord has given to me for the benefit of this country. Having made that decision, as I said before, I turned to the People's National Movement because it was founded on democratic principles, basic human rights and dignity, and dedicated to raising the moral and material standards of the people through the fields of politics, economics, social, cultural, and moral activities. In the PNM, I saw a party with a vision, a party with strong foundation, with structure, and most importantly, a party with visionary, dedicated leadership led by the indomitable, the industrious, the fearless Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley. And for me, Dr. Rowley at this time in our nation's history represents the kind of leader that is required to take us out of our present predicament, where our country has moved from, and I put it this way, remember our country moved from colonial status independence through PNM? And then we moved from independent status to Republican status through PNM? But right now we have moved, and these are my terms, we move from Republican status to what I call special interest system of democracy, ladies and gentlemen, where the special interests are the ones that are taken care of right now. Now you notice, special interest system, take the first letter of each word and see what it means. I will say no more. Special interest system of democracy, ladies and gentlemen. Take the first letter of each word, and I'll leave you to interpret that. The PNM for me is the only vehicle that will take us to that new horizon. Therefore, for me, to signal honor, to join with Nicole to represent the constituency of Brea and Point Fortin as the PNM candidates for the next general election. The Bible tells us that without a vision, the people perish. The PNM in its draft policy framework articulated the road ahead to 2030, building a nation together. Joined from this overarching vision at the constituency level, I want to posit that we say a road ahead to 2020, not losing sight of 2030, building a constituency together. We have to plan for the next 5 years, for 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, and 2020. Our vision must give meaning to our daily routine. Our vision must be different to our reality. In fact, it must almost contradict our reality. It must put us at a different place. It must move us from our comfort zone. I urge you, therefore, if we are to move Point Fortin and Brea and the wider Trinidad and Tobago from a place of problems to a place of solutions, we have to think and act differently. We have to be futuristic and positive in our thinking. It was noteworthy to mention here that as we go forward, we have to acknowledge our expectation from various governments that have not been fully realized over time. We at Brea and Point Fortin has made huge deposits into the political bank account. And I'm saying to you, at the next PNM-led government, I am sure, under the leadership of Dr. Rowley, we're going to get what we deserve, ladies and gentlemen. As I stand here, I say to you, a new dawn is awakening. You will see a morning filled with the illumination of a symbolic red light that shines from the PNM beacon. Well, it's important to look at the past because sometimes you go along and our PNM people say, well, PNM didn't do this and didn't do that. And they go back into the past. And I say to them, simple analogy. I say, do you know in the motor vehicle, they have a small rearview mirror and a big windscreen? If we are to go forward, I can tell you, you cannot drive a vehicle going forward looking at the rearview mirror. Neither can you go forward looking at the windscreen alone. You have a combination of both. So yes, take fleeting glance of what the PNM did or did not do in the past, but do not let that determine your future. Look at the bigger windscreen. Look at the leadership and the vision of Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley that gives you a future hope and aspiration, ladies and gentlemen. Let's look at the big picture as we go forward. But we say, in getting at those visions and so on, let's begin with the end in mind. And to get there, we must do first things first. And our first order of business is to ensure that everyone in every constituency is prepared to and come out to vote on the 7th of September, ladies and gentlemen. Everyone. Every vote counts. Sometimes I walk around in Point Fortin and people say there's a safe seat. I say, hello. There is nothing like a safe seat. There is nothing like a safe seat. Don't have the mentality. There is no safe seat because voting is about numbers. If both of us are 10 and extra vote 11 will tell me that I won. So every single vote counts, ladies and gentlemen. So our first order of business is to ensure that we bring out everybody, ma, pa, son, daughter, come out and vote for your representative at the next general election. Because this is the vehicle that will make a difference. This is the mechanism that will allow us to make manifest our vision to lead and develop Trinidad and Tobago. This evening, as I close, I leave you with 5 words as we move forward to influence and shape the future of Trinidad and Tobago. Those words are, we can and we will. We can and we will. We can and we will vote the PNM into power. We can and we will ensure that Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley becomes the next Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. We can and we will ensure that Trinidad and Tobago gets good governance. We can and we will ensure that Brea and Point Fortin get what they deserve for the development of these constituencies. We can and we will mobilize a red army with a Balize as its symbol, the likes of which you have never seen in this country, Trinidad and Tobago, ladies and gentlemen. And so I close with a quote from President Obama. He said, the best way to not feel hopeless is to get up and do something. Do not wait for good things to happen to you. If you go out and make good things happen, you will fill the world with hope. You will fill yourself with hope. Ladies and gentlemen, let us get up and do something. Let us get up. Encourage others to vote for the People's National Movement. If we are to move our constituencies from a place where it is now to where we want it to be, we have to act now. We have to ensure that everyone, including our young people, are registered to vote. We have to vote, ladies and gentlemen. I call out specifically on the young people in our community to come out and ensure that you are registered to vote for the People's National Movement. In conclusion, once again, I wish to extend my sincerest thanks and appreciation to all of you for taking the time to join Nicole and I and our political leader here at Majuba Junction. Special thanks to my Point Fortin supporters. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you very much for the courtesy of your attention. May God bless us all and indeed bless our nation. Great is the PNM, great is the PNM, great is the PNM, and we shall prevail. Thank you very much.